And we are going to continue on with the morning. Next up is our morning keynote speaker, the Honorable Kari Bingen. And please join me in welcoming to the stage Nicole Gibson from Guidehouse, who will introduce Ms. Bingen.
Good morning. One of the best things about having the opportunity to introduce speakers at these different INSA events is getting to see the scale of the crowds as we do this year over year. So congratulations, Suzanne. This is really, really well done. Great job. Guidehouse is a proud sponsor of today's program and a proud supporter of INSA and the work they do to advance collaborative approaches to intelligence and national security priorities. Programs such as this are vital to our community, as the first panel just talked about. At Guidehouse, we believe diversity is the core of our competitive advantage, and we understand the diverse experiences women bring to the community provide a unique perspective needed to solve today's challenges. Programs like today's conference highlight how women can become more integrated in the workforce and how we should all work towards building a community of inclusion. And we are so thrilled that so many great senior leaders in the community are participating today. So it is now my distinct pleasure to introduce one of these talented leaders and this morning's keynote speaker. The Honorable Kari A. Bingen serves as the Principal Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence, the second highest ranking civilian job in the Pentagon. In this role, she advises the Defense Secretary and Undersecretary Kernan on intelligence affairs. Previously, Ms. Bingen served as the House Armed Services Committee Policy Director. She's a graduate of MIT with a degree in aeronautics and astronautics, which I had to practice that, by the way. That's very impressive. And a 2002 NRO Technology Fellow. Please join me in welcoming to the podium the Honorable Kari Bingen.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Nicole, for that introduction. Tish Long, Chuck Alsop, Suzanne Heckenberg. Great to see many friendly faces I've gotten to know over the years. I see Marcel out in the audience, others. So thanks for y'all for being here, and thank you and the INSA team for your vision and leadership in bringing this important forum to fruition. We've got just some phenomenal people here, and I really enjoyed hearing that last panel discussion with Sue Gordon. I know we've got Ellen McCarthy later this afternoon, the CEOs you just heard from. I'll say these are women leaders, but frankly, these are leaders who I just greatly admire and continue to learn from. First, I want to tell a story about how I spent my weekend. I have a 6-year-old son. He's playing t-ball for the first time. He had a game on Saturday. There was one girl on the team, which was pretty awesome. Her name's Ava. Each time the other team hit the ball, all the boys on the team, my son included, would chase after the ball, pile on top of each other, and then just completely miss it. I'll tell you that Ava, she would run over, cool as a cucumber, grab the ball, throw it to first, get the batter out. You know, I knew I had to cheer for my son, but man, was I cheering on Ava. She was just kicking butt. So just, you know, we've got a bright future ahead of us with butt kickers. Hey, so it is a real privilege to be here today. I love this event, and I love its purpose. I love being surrounded by so many talented women and men, all dedicated to our nation's security, to strengthening the profession of intelligence, to supporting each other, and to ensuring that we retain, promote, and attract the most capable workforce. I'll be honest, I did have a tough time putting my remarks together. It's a tall order trying to distill my experience into a few key meaningful points, recognizing that each of you have a different background and experience, and I have a firm belief that each of us must charter our own unique path. But I do think sharing insights and collaborating, and even constructive criticism, makes us better and stronger, both professionally and personally. I am the beneficiary of sound advice given to me over the years by many mentors, bosses, colleagues, and friends, both women and men. So here are some of the things this space nerd from Portland, Oregon has learned along the way. First, find your passion and develop a true expertise. I found my passion when I was 7 years old. I was fascinated by space, by airplanes, by the military, and I wanted to be an astronaut. I read all about Sally Ride and the space shuttle, which was still fairly new at the time. I could recite lines from the Top Gun movie. I mean, who of us couldn't? I watched Star Trek on the weekends. I went to space camp in high school. When I was researching colleges, I made spreadsheets like a good engineer of all the astronauts and where they went to school, and the top two were the Naval Academy and MIT. I didn't have the eyesight for the Navy, but I did end up at MIT, and I majored in aerospace engineering. I worked in government and industry analyzing satellite systems and developing strategies for what the Department of Defense should buy. I then moved to the House Armed Services Committee. I really got to know my issues, became a space expert, and then was able to branch out from there. A friend from college found his passion while studying aerospace engineering in school. He wasn't the best test taker, but loved hands-on designing and building. He went on to invent a flying car. An Air Force lieutenant colonel I worked with earlier in my career, after having been in the service for over 20 years, primarily working space, went back to school, medical school, to become a doctor. I have a phenomenal woman in my office, Jacqueline, who is passionate about seeing other women succeed. So in her spare time, she established a group to develop, educate, mentor, and promote our next generations of female leaders in national security. We give you spare time? No, it's really important. So I guess my point in telling these stories is to find what you're passionate about and to do it, regardless of where you are in your career. Develop that passion, develop that expertise, and your work and your performance will speak for itself. What I think is great about the IC is that we're set up to develop experts and to build expertise. There aren't that many folks who really understand, at the technical level, the design and performance of foreign thermonuclear warheads, or the order of battle of Russian conventional forces, or the intricacies of Chinese debt diplomacy and its impact on the global economy, or how to case a source. It is not uncommon, in fact, it is the norm for IC analysts to brief senior policymakers because you're the expert regardless of your gender. What I also think is great about the intelligence community is that we are predisposed for a diverse workforce and workplace. It is, after all, our job to understand others' capabilities, cultures, and ways of thinking. So diversity in our ranks and in our thinking is incredibly important. I'll admit the job I'm in now is incredibly challenging, and the bureaucracy even more so I can't say that I always take my own advice. But I'll tell you what gets me going, and gets me going every morning, is that I love our portfolio, the technology, the capabilities, operations, and I have a profound respect and loyalty to the women and men who work on our mission. Oftentimes in harm's way, deployed away from family, long hours in the office or the lab, and you can't even talk about it. Second, there is no substitute for hard work and persistence. I never wanted to get a job because I was the woman candidate. I wanted to earn the job because I was damn smart and a hard worker. If I haven't said it yet or enough, I'm amazed at the talent in the intelligence community. What I particularly love about the intelligence field is that it is all about talent. No one and no gender has the market cornered on brain power, critical thinking, and hard work. You're briefing your PDB article because you're the expert on the issue, so own it. Own that expertise, that talent, and let your performance do the talking. I will be brutally honest. No one is going to hold your hand to get you where you want to go. On the contrary, people will tell you no, it can't be done, or you can't do that. Prove them wrong, but more importantly, prove it to yourself. I had a professor say women typically don't do well in aerospace engineering, consider switching majors. I did the opposite, and it fueled me. About 10 years into my career, I wanted to work in Congress. Remember that passion thing earlier? I became fascinated by politics and how policymaking influenced the big decisions being made in space and in defense. I thought I had the right skill set and experience. I had a technical background. I worked about 10 years on satellite programs in the defense and intelligence communities, but it took 1.5 years, letters to representatives and senators, and over 20 meetings through networking of over 20 different people to get the job. I kept at it, finally got the job, and was there for about 10 years. Just one tangent. I had a fascinating experience in Congress, and I think there are a couple folks here from the Hill now. I knew how to design a satellite, but I wanted to learn how policy, politics, industry, academia, the intelligence community, and the Department of Defense came together, and how it led to the investments and capabilities we have in space. As an engineer, I could break down a complex system into discrete parts, conduct the most elegant analysis, and provide a technically sound recommendation. However, I couldn't comprehend the logic of politics that in some cases led to a different outcome. But what I found first and foremost is that, despite what you see on TV, there is genuine partnership by members of both parties to work together on intelligence and national defense. Whether we're buying a satellite or a tank, trying to understand foreign hypersonics capabilities, or ensuring our soldiers deploying overseas have body armor, it's not a Republican or a Democrat issue. I also saw true bipartisanship on tough national security policy issues. I've had the privilege of joining members of the House on numerous visits to places like Afghanistan and Iraq. One occasion sticks out where we were having dinner in Kabul, members of Congress, our ambassador, our senior military leaders. What ensued was a serious conversation about the threats, what they meant for US national security, the pros and cons of different strategy options, and debate on the prospects for the future. It was the kind of deep discussion and information gathering that you'd want your elected members of Congress to have. I also found the need for more critical thinkers, analysts, experts with strong technical backgrounds to work in policy and to inform sound policymaking. These elected officials, who are lawyers, mayors, teachers, car salesmen, they make significant policy decisions on technical programs, scientific policies, et cetera, that affect hundreds of millions to billions of dollars. Having technically savvy experts to advise them, or having elected officials, if you're thinking of running for office yourself, who understand technology, leads to better outcomes for our nation and better investment of precious taxpayer dollars. The other point I'll make about hard work and persistence is that you are more capable than you think you are. Do you ever wake up on a Monday with a pit in your stomach, thinking, God, it's a killer week. How am I going to make it through? Maybe you're a procrastinator like me. Yes, me. You have a big briefing, a key program deadline, several key meetings, maybe remarks to write. I've had countless of these over my career. But you put your head down, you take each day at a time, and you power through it. Then the next week comes, and it's harder than the last, and you do the same thing. Are y'all familiar with Dilbert? Is Dilbert even still around? I don't know. Anyways, I came across a Dilbert cartoon back in college, and I kept it on my wall in each job that I had. Quote, "That which does not suck the life force out of me makes me stronger." I still have that. And it still hangs on my wall in USDI. So, you are way more capable than you think that you are, and just stick to that Dilbert principle. Third, be open to new challenges, to pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and to learning new things. This can and should be done at any age, regardless of where you are in your career. A large part of my current job, what has made it fun and challenging, is learning new things. We are at a pivotal moment in history. Senior statesmen, such as Henry Kissinger, have observed that the United States has not faced a more diverse and complex array of crises since World War II. The technical advantage that the United States has maintained for decades is eroding. This is where I get to plug the USDI's priorities and say that we need your leadership, your talent, your ingenuity to solve the many security challenges we face. In the Department of Defense, our focus right now has been on implementing the National Defense Strategy. The forces and capabilities we fine-tuned the last 18 years fighting terrorists are not what will be effective in deterring near-peer adversaries. Technology, which is widely accessible and quickly advancing across the globe, is fundamentally changing how we think about warfare. As our technology advantage erodes, so does our military advantage. Former Secretary Mattis would say, "I never want to send our soldiers into a fair fight." So translating all of this into our field, this means further understanding the threats we face, the capabilities our adversaries are developing, how they plan to use them, and how they make decisions. We have the same challenge in that the intelligence posture and capabilities we fine-tuned for counterterrorism are not what's needed to be effective in a contested environment against a near-peer adversary. For example, we may not have air superiority, which we've had in Iraq and Afghanistan, so we could send a predator in, but will it come out? We're pushing the envelope and our investments in some pretty cool areas to maintain our military advantage: space, cyber, undersea, to name a few. As you know far better than I, we've built up an intelligence enterprise and processes that are heavily manual and labor-intensive, from how we search for data, to exploiting intelligence from UAV feeds, to how we update our targeting databases. On the latter, we're relying on 1990s database technology. We must modernize these antiquated processes. I cannot recruit a computer science whiz or a top-notch geopolitical analyst with the pitch: come work in the IC where you'll spend every day on 1990s technology. I can pitch them on: come work in the IC where we expect your best creative thinking. Your job is to bring in cutting-edge technology, come up with new solutions, and work on some fascinating, challenging, and highly classified national security challenges. And then my job is to fix the policies and cut the bureaucratic red tape to enable you to do this and to deliver for our warfighters and policymakers. One area I'm particularly excited about is artificial intelligence, though we're still early on, so I'd say we're still in the machine learning phase. However, wow, do I see some pretty phenomenal potential for how AI can augment our workforce and enable them to do their jobs better. In USDI, we have a team working on an effort called Project Maven. It's a pathfinder for the department that started with applying AI to UAV video feeds. As you know, we're drowning in data, tying up smart military and civilians staring at video screens. We don't have enough analysts to analyze it all at the speed and scale needed, nor would we want them doing that. I want those analysts doing critical thinking. This is a perfect area for machines that process large volumes of data and machines that learn. And we're just at the beginning. Also, how do we think through the use of cyber and protection of our critical infrastructure and industrial base? We know the Chinese in particular continue to steal our technology and intellectual property. We've tended to treat security as an administrative function, but its loss has real consequences on the battlefield. And of course, I have to talk about space. It is such an exciting time to be in space. There has been an explosion. Okay, bad choice of words. Space folks don't like to talk about explosions, but there has been an expansion of innovation in space, largely led by the commercial sector. We're leveraging that in government with more diverse and distributed space architectures, greater automation, and dynamic processes. We're also investing in some pretty cool satellite technology that the private sector doesn't necessarily have or isn't using, but that will enable us to better protect our satellites and maintain that critical military advantage on the battlefield. We are also doing more with our allies and partners. We operate in coalitions. Our combined effectiveness depends on a shared understanding of threats, shared intelligence, complementary accesses, and capabilities. We have such an important mission and cool things to work on. I do recognize that industry, Silicon Valley, can offer you much higher salaries. But I do thank you for your service to our country and for making those decisions. It is a service and a sacrifice that you make for doing the jobs that you do, so thank you. Fourth and finally, my last piece of advice: hone your soft skills. And by this, I mean primarily your communications and your relationship building skills. As a nerd, the one thing that has been drilled into me over the years is to work on my communication skills. You could be the most brilliant engineer, scientist, or scientist in the world, but if you can't effectively communicate, it's difficult to really drive change. MIT recognized this, and I saw plenty of this there. But they even went so far as to offer charm school to students to help us effectively communicate. Early on in my work in Congress, I remember briefing representatives and senators on different satellite capabilities. 15 minutes in, one of them, who shall not be named, asked me what LEO was. I realized then that I needed to work much more on my communication skills, particularly to individuals without technical backgrounds. Now, I see this daily in the Pentagon as well. I review countless memos, reports, presentations. If I don't understand what you're telling me in one page, or even in one clear bullet, how is the secretary or members of Congress going to understand it when he or she has even more on their plate than I do and perhaps less background in the topic? So communicating in simple, concise English, both written and oral, this is the skill I'd hone the most, and this is the engineer speaking. Whether on the Hill or at the Pentagon, those who do this effectively, I've seen sway multi-million and even billion-dollar program decisions. and it's a skill you'll use throughout your entire career. I would also stress how important relationship building and team building are, especially in this community. Surprisingly, the intelligence community is a pretty small place. You will cross paths with the same people several times in your career. Relationships are important when the times are good, but they're really important when times are tough. I've found when working through thorny issues or areas where there is significant disagreement, having a strong relationship and trust with the person across the table enables us to have a collegial conversation, to work through our differences, and to chart out a way ahead, even though we may retain those differences. You do not need to have all the answers. You do not have to be in competition with others, but instead be mutually supportive, have integrity, be helpful. You will need help at one point or another. All of us do. It's inevitable. So build a strong team that can get you over the highest hurdle. Take advantage of professional development opportunities, particularly in leadership and management training. I was thrown in the deep end of the pool. Looking back, I wish I had taken those courses. I rely on my judgment and expertise now, but I can tell you it would be very helpful if I had had a better awareness and understanding of what to look for and equipped with tips on how to navigate tricky management situations. Mentors. I strongly encourage you to find good mentors, both women and men. I am fortunate to have had both, or to have had several, and they changed throughout my career. My mentor at 22 helped me establish myself professionally, better understand the defense and intelligence community, what the different organizations were, and then helped me to navigate the workplace as a young person. However, my mentors now provide me with a different sounding board and different feedback. I have a few mentors now that do come from different backgrounds, ranging from government and industry to political. I greatly value the advice they give me, the sounding board they provide, the encouragement, and the honest, candid feedback they give. And we all need that honest, candid feedback to help us grow and improve. They enabled me to think through career options and how to approach tough situations. You have some amazing women to look up to in the IC and in defense intelligence. You know, just as I think off the top of my head, Sue Gordon, Gina Haspel, Suzanne White, Betty Sapp, several uniformed combatant commander directors of intelligence, Karen Gibson, Laura Potter, Heidi Berg, Michelle Schmidt, Kelly Oshbach, the industry leaders you just heard from, and countless others in government and industry. And I would wager to say that none of these women are so busy that they wouldn't make time to mentor, myself included. I've been able to talk to many women and hopefully serve as a sounding board for them. Get them to think about options or factors perhaps they hadn't thought of to inform their decision making. My only ask of each of them was that they pay it forward. I'm here because of others' encouragement. Please provide that same encouragement to the women that follow in your footsteps. So in closing, tomorrow, May 8th, is the 74th anniversary of Victory in Europe Day. I can't help but think of all the women who answered the call to service and paved the way. Over 355,000 women served during World War II, including the WASPs and the likes of Virginia Hall of OSS. The WASPs flew over 60 million miles and transported every type of military aircraft, towed target for live anti-aircraft gun practice, simulated strafing missions, and transported cargo. CIA officers have said that the techniques used by Virginia Hall 80 years ago to build up the French resistance still inform the agency's missions today, including Operation Jawbreaker in Afghanistan before and after 9/11. We have a proud legacy, and you are part of that proud legacy today and into the future. It is a really critical time to be in intelligence, with no shortage of challenging and exciting problems for you to tackle. So if I haven't said it already, we need you. We need your leadership, your diversity, your critical thinking, and your problem solving. Be daring, have courage, and speak up just as our predecessors did. Thank you again for inviting me. More importantly, thanks for participating in this forum today. I mean, this room is filled with just amazing, talented women and men, so please take advantage of the day that you have before you. Thank you. Sure, yep. I'm happy to take a couple questions. Folks have them?
Hi there, my name is Sam Lebeo and I work at NGA. Thank you for being here and thank you to INSA for hosting this morning. My question is about what kind of balance you've struck between this passion that you said you found for space when you were a child. Did you let that guide you, or did you try and harness it more intentionally? Like, were there aha moments when you were like, I really know this is the direction I want to go in, versus just kind of being open and looking for opportunities and taking what comes next? Thank you.
Yeah, it was actually probably a little bit of both. I just loved it, so wanted to, once you really love something and you're passionate about something, I think I find that you want to learn more about it, figure things out. So I spent a lot of time doing my own research. I mean, heck, in elementary school, you're writing book reports on things. And then as I got older, I think it drove me to look at career options. So what are different things that I could do working in space, whether it was government, industry, within the defense intelligence community, NASA. I wanted to be an astronaut, and so I'd done all the research, but my eyesight sucks, and once I realized that door was, they're like that thick. Once I realized that door was closed to me, I think it fueled me to look at other ways that I could still contribute. But again, it really was having a passion and an interest for something, and even to this day, I still love to geek out on space stuff. I'll editorialize for a moment here, but as a kid that grew up with astronauts and the space shuttle, seeing the United States not have a human spaceflight capability was just so hard. And now seeing it come back to fruition, and frankly seeing some of the commercial sector lead the way there, that is so exciting, and that just gets me excited. But I also, and I think a part of my remarks, what I also want to emphasize is, not everybody has that one thing, or it changes over time, and I think we've got to be open to both of those things. Even for me, space interested me. Once I realized a door was closed, I still wanted to be technical, but I found this whole political policy thing as well, and so then that morphed, and I ended up on the Hill. So, I think it's a little bit of everything, and some of it'll be drive, and some of it will be kind of what you uncover along the way, and then also, if you don't have that now, don't worry. You'll find it. And once you find it, really build on that. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Manaz Talyarkin from Northrop Grumman. I'm just now starting out my career in space defense, and there are a lot of times where I feel like I have no idea what I'm doing. You mentioned honest and candid feedback. I ask for that, and I always get answers such as, you're doing fine, or no, that was a great idea, don't worry about it. Do you have any suggestions on how we can solicit that targeted feedback, maybe some sort of wording or maybe a different approach, so that we can try and find not necessarily things we're doing bad, but even just gaps where we can improve? Thank you.
That's a great question. A couple of things is, if you tell them, and I'm just spitballing here, but if you tell them why you want that feedback, you want it to make yourself better, to improve, to improve your skill set, to improve your professional interactions and your relationship building. Sometimes people are more willing to give that kind of constructive feedback with knowing the why. But also, I think they're more willing to give that constructive feedback too, is if you have that relationship, if there is the trust that, that this person is going to, positively use this to make themselves better. So I think there's that. I continue to ask other people too, as if there's one, and I don't know the particulars of your situation, but if you've asked one or two people and they're not engaging and willing to do that, ask person 3, 4, 5, 6, ask others. And I'd say, we have to look at ourselves from a 360 perspective, so don't always look up necessarily, look across, and perhaps even look down. And then look at mentors too, and a lot of times mentors are not necessarily in your chain of command or in your current business unit or organization. Mentors can be from outside there, and they can also provide some great honest feedback, constructive criticism, and then even if they're not there and seeing you on a daily basis, I think a lot of times you'll find they've shared some similar experiences to you and can help you kind of navigate or think through how you might engage in those situations.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Amos Sajani is my name. My question for you is, what would be the best approach for men to recruit women as mentor?
As a man to recruit a woman as a mentor?
A man asking a female leader to mentor them.
Just ask. And I've tried to stick to that in my remarks, and I'll just emphasize it again, is I think, mentorship, there's a woman-to-woman mentorship, but I'll tell you also, is I have learned just as much from my male mentors as my female mentors, and I think the reverse is true too. I think for men coming up through the workforce and where you are at your point in your career, I'm sure you can learn just as much from both male and female mentors. And again, it's your overall, I guess I'll say, kind of professional profile. It's the substance, it's the soft skills, it's how you work with people, it's how you communicate, it's all of that, and I think both women and men can contribute to helping you further enhance that total package. Oh,
Right here.
okay.
Hi, Carrie. So I have been.
Was I accurate on my MIT stuff?
Yes, you were.
Okay.
So I've benefited from your mentorship over the years, and one of the things that you've always told me that I really take away is to think big, right? And I know you've been in situations where you've taken that leap and maybe felt that you were a little in over your head. But what strategies do you employ to help yourself kind of realize that you are in the right place and that you are to kind of show your bona fides?
Yeah, I mean, I would be lying if I didn't say with each job I've taken, I've carried an incredible amount of doubt and uncertainty of, could I do this job? I think it almost goes back to the waking up every Monday morning and just putting your head down and working hard, learning, recognizing that, none of us have, and I don't know, there's a lot that I don't know, so particularly when I'm in a new job, whether it was on the Hill or even in the department, those first couple of months in particular, I just frankly kept my head down and absorbed like a sponge. There are people in those organizations that have been there a lot longer than I have. I mean, clearly I come in with some fresh ideas and some perspective, but I wanted to learn the portfolio, learn the people, build the relationships. And those first couple months were, particularly in the department, were really hard for me because you'd be thrown in. I remember day 2 on the job, I was in a meeting with the deputy secretary, and somebody had come in to prep me 10 minutes before on a very substantive issue, and I'm going in and trying to make an argument to the deputy, and I had very little confidence in myself because I really didn't understand the material. So it's, my own personal mantra is, it is really the hard work, and if it took me, everyone's different, but I'll say if I had a meeting the next day and I really knew I needed to be smart on an issue and I really need to know the insides and outsides of it, I'd stay in the office till 11 reading it and really making sure I understood. If I had to testify on the Hill on a topic that I may not have had the most depth on, I'd basically build my own, and with my team, build my own campaign plan weeks out, scheduling deep dives, talking to folks, reading, doing murder board, just all of the prep it takes to really feel comfortable that I understood the material and could effectively communicate. So it's back to the preparation, persistence, hard work. Okay, yeah.
My question is related to mentoring. While you have been mentored, what have been some of the qualities that you have put forth to receive that mentoring? Because one can get mentoring but reject the feedback or the wisdom that is being shared.
So how do I get feedback from people
How
who
do
mentor
you
me?
receive it? What are the qualities that you have consciously lived, if you will, to receive the mentoring?
I think it's two sides of the same coin. One is to be open to receiving it, and 2 is to not be defensive about receiving it, because particularly if you trust that person and you trust that relationship, they're giving you honest, candid feedback, and sometimes it's things you may not want to hear, But if it's truly, that trusted, open relationship with a mentor, it's good feedback, because I know in the workplace too, I oftentimes have blinders on and I'm not thinking about something from a certain angle. And so having somebody that's able to kind of call me on that, and again, in a trusted space, but to be able to call me on that, so I realize, I'm doing something that may be detrimental or is not constructive. I want to hear that, but again, you have to be open to taking that, because if you're not, then it's not going to go well. So I would just say, be open. If you really want it, and you want it to be honest, constructive, and sometimes if it's not going to be something that you want to hear, you have to be open and willing to accept it and willing to talk through it. What you do with that information, you then have to figure out, is this, I don't see it as an issue, so maybe I don't need to change, or maybe there are some things that I could change, or some other ways I could approach the situation. But I do think you have to be open to that. And I think the hard part too is it's easy for us to internalize and take it personally. I think for the betterment of kind of each of our career development, we have to learn, I think, not to take it personally, but to use it to drive us, and to really use it constructively. Yeah, great, thank you. All right, thanks everyone. Have a great day.
Okay, thanks, Carrie, for some really, really great insights. And so just join with me one more time in thanking Carrie. Okay, my first chance to say good morning, but good morning. And I'm Chuck Alsop, I'm the president of INSA. I'm glad to see a few familiar faces here today. But I'm even gladder to see some new faces here today, so you can see what we do at INSA. Today's program goes to the heart of what we do at INSA by bringing the full community together, public, private, and academic, to address these important issues, share success stories, and the hard lessons learned along the way. We are collectively building a stronger intelligence community. And for that, I thank you all for being in the room here today. So give yourself a hand for being here today. Okay, what you've really been waiting for, we're going to pause right now to give everyone a chance to stretch your legs, get something to eat or snack, and connect with peers over coffee. Remember Tisha's challenge earlier. Introduce yourself to someone new at each one of the breaks. Thanks to OG Systems for sponsoring this morning's refreshment break. We'll start back at 10:45 sharp. Thanks.